so happy that this is hopefully going to become maybe an inaugural thing. This is the first time we've had Cal State at East Bay faculty come and do a panel with multiple faculty to focus on kind of letting students know, letting political science majors know about the different types of kind of what they can expect when they go to Cal State East Bay. I think that it's important for them to learn about, for you guys to learn about the faculty, what their research is, some of the different opportunities that exist at Cal State East Bay, and just get a little bit acclimated and kind of start to set goals, right? Kind of start to imagine, right, what your future's gonna look like when you guys are off of Hesperian and onto Carlos B. Big changes in life, but really, the kind of exciting things that you guys are gonna see here at community college, we're gonna give you guys a base, but then when you guys move on, really the opportunities are going to really open up for you guys to specialize, to get engaged in the discipline, and also to get engaged in the opportunities that exist outside of the classroom. Okay. So should I introduce you guys, or do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Do you want to start?
Maybe it's good if you guys introduce yourselves.
Yeah.
Great.
Hi, I'm Danby, Dr. Lee. I specialize in race and ethnic politics, and I teach mostly the American courses and a lot of political advocacy and campaigns and elections.
Hi, my name is Puya, Dr. Safarzadeh, and I am the pre-law advisor, and I teach courses in the pre-law emphasis or pre-law option at Cal State East Bay. And my research focuses on how the Supreme Court adopts racial stereotypes of minoritized groups in its decisions.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Amy Balo, or Dr. Balo, or Professor Balo. And I teach right now environmental and climate-related courses, and then some my regional specialties of the Americas, so that includes Latin America as well. And so my research is kind of the combo of those two, is looking at climate change foreign policy in the Americas and then internationally. And then I also teach right now the first of a 2 research method sequence class, which we'll talk about later, right? So if you come to East Bay, then you may have to be in one of my classes.
Hello, my name is Alexander, or Dr. Otruba, and I teach primarily in political philosophy or political theory. And really, political theory kind of focuses on the history, the development, maybe the implementation, the examination of political ideas that kind of drive a lot of the rest of politics and drive our interactions with government. And so with me, you'll take classes on things like the history of American development of political thought, and looking at classical political philosophy, modern political ideas that have entered into the mix. And my research has focused on areas of the development of American political thought, but also looking at the history of periods like in the 20th century fascism, 20th century totalitarianism, and perhaps some of the lessons that we can learn from the development of those things.
Well, actually, I can do this one. So this is just a general overview of the political science department at Cal State East Bay. We have, as you've just heard, faculty expertise in American government, comparative politics, international relations. We also have faculty expertise in law. And then there's also public policy, advocacy, political participation, political theory. So those are like integrated throughout the classes and the courses. We also have a political science club, which Dr. Balo is the advisor of. And we have a model of UN club as well. A pre-law advising an LSAT prep, and that is Dr. Safarzadeh's area. And now I lost my screen, so I don't know what I want to say. I just wanted to sing, really. And at Cal State East Bay, we also have a master's in public administration, and there's a pathway for that through our program as well. Please interrupt with any questions as we're going through this, because there's just a lot of information on here, especially in this next slide. So we have different concentrations. We have 3 concentrations. One is traditional, the other is public admin, and the next one is pre-law. For our major, you only need 13 classes in our major to graduate. And that's if you start off as a first-year student, since you'll be transferring in. Chances are you would have already taken American government. And I think Chabot also has California politics that you can also take. And so if you knock those two out, then by the time you get to East Bay, then you'll have 11 courses to complete the major. This does not include the GE requirements, and we're not going to get into that because really we're not well versed in that. But for the major itself, it's only 11 classes. And then we have upper division courses, core courses also. And that's what Dr. Baylor was just talking about, the study of political science and our capstone. And she can go into that more. And then beyond that, we have core courses. And then from there, depending on what your concentration is, it's really a matter of choose your own adventure. So would you like to say more about life?
I'll just add a little more about what traditional means. Basically, that's like a choose your own adventure. So the other two, right, have more specific titles. So if you want to go to law school or think about a career in the legal field, then you might want to be a pre-law major or concentration. If you maybe want to go into government work administrative work, then you might go into public admin. But if you're not sure or want to do something else or just want to be really eclectic or come up with your own concentration, then go with traditional because it's really flexible. So maybe you want to do something in political advocacy, pick your own classes. Maybe you want to do some theory classes and a couple law classes. Great, then go with traditional. You can kind of pave your way. Right now, we don't have one that focuses on international relations or comparative politics, which is comparing governments in different countries. Dr. Artoiste and I are the two professors that work on that. We're thinking about creating one in the future, but right now, if there isn't one, maybe you want to take mostly international relations classes and look at different countries and study why there's war and not war and the political economy, things like that. Then you can just do traditional and make your own pathway. And that, again, that's the most flexible. So if that's appealing to you, that's what traditional means.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the pre-law options?
Yeah, sure. So is there anyone who is interested in law school a little bit? Okay, great. It's great to see. Okay, any interest? Hopefully we can strengthen that interest as well, because we do have a very strong pre-law program at Cal State East Bay. And that's something that a lot of undergraduate programs do not have specifically, is a pre-law option and a pre-law concentration. And the great thing about the pre-law option is that's something that will actually show up on your transcript. That's something that will go to law schools when you're applying, that you can put on your resume. That'll really be something where it's an indication to the law schools that you've taken several pre-law courses, actual courses that you will be taking pretty much the same ones in law school. So it's going to be great preparation. And, as someone who went to law school, I really teach those classes the way that they're taught in law school, using the IRAC method, using the Socratic method. So it really is strong preparation for law school, and it really looks good when that is on your resume and on your transcript showing. And we offer several pre-law classes at Cal State East Bay in the pre-law option. Again, classes you'll be taking in law school as well, like constitutional law government, constitutional law rights, survey of American law, law in society, international law, and environmental law. So we have legal classes really, bridging the field of really what you can expect in law school. So that's really great, and it's a strong indicator, that you want to go to law school and you're serious about that. And then we also hold, as the pre-law advisor, I also hold a lot of law school admissions workshops. So to prepare students for law school, so we've had workshops on the LSAT, personal statements, resumes, letters of recommendation, and scholarships. So recently, just last month, oh wow, that's nice. Just last month, we had, some students, actually we did it in conjunction with the Political Science Club, some students who had recently taken the LSAT. So I provided some information, some test taking tips about the LSAT, but also the best advice came from the students who had recently taken the LSAT in September and August, and they shared advice with their fellow classmates. So that was really helpful, students helping each other. So we do have a very collaborative environment at Cal State East Bay, which is nice to see, not only faculty helping students, but students helping students. And then the last thing real quick I want to brush on is individual advising and counseling that I do with students. So we do the workshops that are open to all students, but then individual advising. So looking at students' personal statements and providing feedback on that. Resumes, how you need to change your resume from, it's different when you're applying to a job than when you're applying to law school, focusing more on education. Letters of recommendations, things like that. So, and so recently, I've been working a lot with students as the law school applications are coming up with providing more concrete examples on your personal statements, how to format your resumes, things like that. And that's all stuff that I, work with students to try to, prepare your applications and your documents as well as we can to try to get you into as good of a law school as we can. So we have a very strong pre-law program. So those students who are interested, I'm glad to see that interest. We'd love to have you at Cal State East Bay. So.
I will just add real quickly that even if you're not a pre-law major or concentration, you can still take the law classes as part of any of the other concentrations. So it doesn't mean you can't take them. It will be part of that. You can still benefit. And even if you're not a pre-law concentration, you can still go to law school afterwards, right? So if you decide too late, change your mind, you can still benefit from all the LSAT prep and all the discussions about applying for law school and any of that.
I know that at least 3 of the students that are here right now, this is their very first semester, so they're taking Intro to American Government. Can you just give a little bit of a taste of what you mean by international relations, comparative politics, advocacy courses, theory? What are you talking about? They don't have the subfields yet.
Okay. So since I have the mic, I'll go first. And my area is international relations, and comparative politics. So international relations courses are looking at, the international, so between countries, right? So how do they get along with each other? When do they get along with each other? When do they not? So you may take a class on security, which is looking at war and peace. You may take a class on the United Nations. So how do countries interact with the United Nations and what does it do? You may take classes on international organizations, so the UN is one of those, or maybe any of the big international organizations with acronyms that you've seen, right? Or something like the World Bank. How does that operate? I teach classes that look at climate change, and so how do all those countries interact with each other internationally? Do they cooperate? Do they sign agreements? Do they disagree with each other? Do they fight with each other? What does all of that look like? So in terms of career options, maybe you want to work for the UN. Maybe you want to work for an international nonprofit organization. If you're looking at the conflicts in Israel and Palestine right now, so you're looking at World Health Organization, and there's a food one. Yeah, there you go. You could work for one of those, right? You could work for a nonprofit that's local that focuses maybe on immigration. That's an international issue. That could still be relevant to international relations. You could work even, maybe you want to go into business and work in private industry. Still having the background in international relations could be very beneficial to you. Comparative politics might be a little harder to think about. So that one is literally comparing governments in different countries. So what does the legislative branch look like in different countries? Some countries have a Congress, some countries are presidential, some are parliamentary. What does that mean? And what does that mean for how governments run and how people live different lives in those countries? You might want to compare legal systems, right? What does the law look like in one country versus another country? So for example, I teach Latin American politics. So we look at the role of democracy in different countries and what does that look like? We look at economic systems and compare those between different countries within Latin America. We also have comparative politics in the Asia region, in Africa, in Europe. I think those are the main, those are kind of the main other regions. So it's really looking at countries outside of the US and comparing, but always comparing back to the US because that's one of the political systems that a lot of us are familiar with. Does that sound helpful?
Don't look at me. You're
Okay.
always helpful to me.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Lee.
American government. So I always view like the intro to American government courses that you might be in right now as like a menu of options. And so for the American government portion, it's like you can do a presidency one. So if you're going through your American government class, you're like, oh, I'm super interested in presidency. I want to know more about the executive branch. We have an American presidency class. Same thing with Congress. So we have all of those interest groups as well. I'm more interested in political behavior. My approach to politics is that it's not made for people of color, it's not made for youth, it's not made for communities of color. So how do we...
Sorry to interrupt. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but the host is muted on Zoom, so we weren't able to hear anything.
Any of that?
For a few minutes.
I don't know why that might be.
But they've seen us like move our lips, so that's kind of cool.
It's on the bottom left corner where it says Josephine.
Oh, maybe. Oh, there we go. I think that maybe when we moved it around, it might have got muted, but that's okay. For me, I can't tell like this, so I'm gonna move. Let me see. All right, how do I do this? Thank you, Chloe, for telling us, although there's no way for her to know that I said that. Okay, unmute. There we go. Chloe, can you hear us now?
Yep, I can hear you guys.
Okay, great. Thank
Thank
you.
So Chloe, just to catch you up and everything, Cal State East Bay rocks.
That's all it takes.
And we are done. We can go back because I do have a slide on the pre-law, so maybe Puya can give like a brief overview of the pre-law classes. And Dr. Balo just talked about the comparative government international relations and what courses those offer. Do you want to can you give a brief spiel on that? Brief?
Repeat?
A repeat,
Okay.
briefly.
Okay, here's I was going to say Cliff Notes, but I guess that ages me. Wikipedia? I don't know.
TikTok.
Here's
the TikTok.
Here's the TikTok version. The TikTok version is international relations classes look at how countries interact with each other, when they do, when they don't, why they don't. You could look at war and peace. You can look at political economy. You could look at international environmental issues. You can also look at international organizations and what impact do they have on relations around the world. Comparative politics compares government system within countries. So the way we offer classes, and actually most political science departments offer campuses is regionally. So you might study and compare different governments in countries in Africa, different countries in Latin America, different countries in Europe, Asia, so on and so forth. And actually, Dr. Artuaste and I just created 2 new classes that we're excited about. International relations of Latin America and international relations of, I think she said Southeast Asia. She specialized within Asia, and I can't remember. So we're actually looking at how countries in those regions interact with each other. So I would be looking at, in my class, and I called it International Relations of the Americas to include the United States. So looking at the U.S. in Latin America, and then looking at how countries within Latin America interact with each other. Do they cooperate? Do they not? On what topics? Things like that. Can I add research methods?
I mean,
Or should I save it? Is it too much me? If we can switch, you grab it.
Dr. Balo doesn't know what a TikTok video is. It was like 30 seconds. True story. She calls it Talk Talk. So the American government courses, I was saying, if you want to go deeper, delve into like presidency and Congress, what I'm interested in is political participation, especially of minority communities. Minority communities have basically been shut out of politics. So a lot of what I do in my class is like, how do we speak up for our own communities? How can you use your education and your pathway to empower your communities? So that's a lot of the political advocacy stuff that I do in my classes. All of my projects surround that, like how do we give voices to the unheard and how do we raise our own voices? And that's basically what my research has been. And then again, if you want to go deeper into like interest group politics or presidency, Congress, that's what the American government part is. And there's also public policy. So if you're into like labor law, we have like a public policy and immigration, public policy and labor also. So that's a public admin pathway if you're interested in that. And that's really on how to create policy, how to advocate for policy, how to get policies passed and like all the inner workings of that. So that's my overview of the American government, and Alex can talk about the theory.
Yeah. I focus on political theory, and political theory as a discipline is a little bit of a outlier sometimes these days, but an essential outlier within a lot of political science departments, and that's because it's different a little bit from other fields within political science, because most of the other fields tend to focus on looking at the world as it is and taking it as it is and trying to sort of confront the challenges that are posed by the world that we have to deal with, right? Whether it's the way that governments interact with each other, whether it's the laws that are established and how to navigate those laws, or the political systems that we engage in. And political theory really asks us to step back a little bit and kind of reflect on all of those disciplines in a way, and think about how it is maybe that we got to those systems, and what it is that contributes to our understanding of those systems as they are, and perhaps even questioning those systems as they are. And so it really wants us to evaluate the ideas, the thinkers that have historically kind of contributed to the development of these various different programs. So in that way, political theory is kind of lurking in the background of all of these disciplines and all of these subfields, sometimes to their frustration. But I think to the interest of the people who are engaging in it, certainly, and hopefully to the betterment of the field in general. A little bit of a watchdog, kind of, I think. So some of the big ideas that we will look at is thinking about notions of justice. Right? What actually is justice? What has led us to understand democracy in the particular ways that we do? Why do we think? Why does everyone conceive of freedom in a particular way? Are there other ways to think about the notions of freedom, for example? And that's just a small taste of the kinds of questions that political theory engages with. Anyway, I think that's about it.
I hope that clarifies everything, because what I want to say next is when we talk about the core courses, it's one course in comparative politics, international relations, theory, and American government. So if you've already taken your American government and California politics, awesome, you're done. 2 classes down, and then those 4 core classes, and then Dr. Balo will talk about the research methods, which I think we call the study, we call the study of political science, and then if you want to talk about the capstone, you can as well.
Okay, so yeah, we call it Political Science 300. It's called the study of political science. It was named that before any of us got there. So most students enroll in the class know they have to take it and say, I don't understand what it is, right? Or it sounds like an introductory class. Actually, we do not recommend first year and second year students take it, but if you're transferring over or third or fourth year, we recommend it. And what this is allowing you the chance to become a political scientist and learn how to do political science research. So it's a lot of work. So we have 2 classes. So in 300, the one that I've traditionally been teaching, you get to come up with your own research question. You get to plan out the whole project. So you'll learn about all the different components of how we do research, and then at the end of the semester you write a research proposal on the project you want to do in the future. Then in 499, which is our capstone class, you usually take that your final year before you graduate. You actually do that project. So you would work in conjunction with that professor. It's been Dr. Ochoaste for the last few years. Then she will actually help you conduct the research, do the project, and try to answer the research question that you set up at the beginning of 300. So we see it as like a years-long project where we go, I'd like to say nice and slow, try to go as slowly as we can so you can change your mind. You can realize you don't like this direction and go somewhere else. Or you, oh, that concept was really hard. Oh, I get it now, right? So you have time to learn all of this. And at the end of the year, then you have a whole research project that you've done from start to finish. You came up with the ideas, you decided what you wanted to study, how you wanted to study it, and you did that work. I'm not going to lie, it's a daunting process, but I like to think pretty cool that at the end of it, you have your own project and you did all that on your own. So it's very different from other classes where you're all learning the same things together. In the first class, the 300 class, we're learning the concepts together, but you're coming up with your own project. So it's one of the classes where you really get to be individualized and tailor it to a career you want, a topic you're interested in, a background that you have, and that's up to you.
Any questions from, if you're on the Zoom, you can just unmute and talk because obviously we can't see you. But any questions from either the Zoom room or here?
Small question. So, like, what's the difference between like a lower division course and like an upper division if you were to transfer?
Excellent question. So if on Zoom you weren't able to hear, what's the difference between lower division and upper division? Does anyone want to take this one? I feel like oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that almost all of our classes are upper division, except for the 100 American Government and 102 California Politics, and I teach neither of those.
I would say the lower division courses are the ones that are preparing you for the upper division. So in general, and this is why the Intro to American Government, I called it like a menu. In general, these introduction classes are like, oh, here's like a taste of this concept, a taste of this subject. And then the upper division courses is like, oh, if you want to learn more about Latin America because you only got a week of it in your comparative politics class, then you can take the politics of Latin America. For me, it was like I only had, when I was a student, I only had like one chapter on, not even a chapter, it was like 2 pages on social movements. So when we get to my class, like we have like a whole social movement, like there's 3 weeks spent on social movement, and we dive deep into it in the Bay Area and the Black Panther Party, and like we look at the way social movements work. So I think that would be the difference between lower and uppers. Like lower, I feel it's like just like, what are you interested in? Here are all of your choices. Versus upper division, it's like, oh, you really want to get to know about this? Then like we're gonna go in hard on this. Excellent question.
That's a good way to put it. And I would just let you know that all the classes that you guys are taking here at Chabot are all lower division classes, right? So a lot of those lower division classes are sort of general education or introductory courses that then you go on and then you kind of specialize in home as you go to
The bigger the number, the more specific the class. A general rule I think that can be helpful is the bigger the number on the class, right? The more specialized the class is. You can just think about it as slowly funneling you towards a specialized area of interest.
And following that thread, 499 is the highest number course we have, and it's so specialized, it's your very own project, right? That's like the pinnacle, whereas 100 is, here's all of American, or 101, right, is all of American government, and then you end up doing your project, which could be about American government, it could be about international relations, it could be about it could be whatever you want.
Can't get more specialized.
Yeah.
Any other question, either from Zoom or?
I have one more question. So I have a question for you specifically. So like, what does LSAT prep look like?
Oh, right. Great question. So usually what we recommend for students is to spend a good 2 to 3 months studying for the LSAT over the summer. So usually your summer before your last year that you're going to be there, because, you know, the thought there is like if you have other commitments like work or anything else, at least if you don't have classes over the summer or fewer classes, then you can dedicate some of that time for LSAT prep. So it is a pretty intensive, it's often one of the hardest in the sense of most preparation required for it, and we offer a lot of resources, both in the library that we've ordered a lot of like LSAT prep, both books and courses and material for personal statements and as well. So we do some of that. Students also take courses for it, like private courses as well. But it is something where it's a standardized test. So it's less like, the knowledge, the skills that we learn are helpful because it's skills to make you think like a lawyer, which are helpful for the LSAT. But the LSAT itself is a test on how to take the LSAT. It's not like you need to know these courses or this material, which depending on your perspective is either really great, because it's not like the bar exam where you have to memorize 17 subjects. But so it's just, just learning the LSAT. But at the same time, it's There's like logic games, reading comprehension. So, if you can figure those sections out, it's great, but sometimes it takes a little bit of time. So I do recommend students generally spend, good 2 to 3 months. And so that's what students are working on right now to do. So we try to really help students out with that and kind of lead them, in a good direction. But yeah, it usually is the kind of a little bit the most challenging part because it takes the most prep work, to get to that stage. So, yeah.
I had a question. Or like a brief mention of some of the upper division courses that you guys offer for those of us who are transferring in there. I know you talked about the capstone and the other thing.
So I teach, there's like a Politics of California class, that's 316. I teach campaign skills, and in that one we run a simulation of like what it's like to run for a campaign. It's a role-playing class. It's freaking amazing, and it's so much fun. Like that's my favorite class is it my favorite? I think that's my favorite class that I teach. My second favorite class that I teach is race and ethnic politics, and then my third favorite class that I teach is Asian American politics. So those are like my core classes that I like to teach. There's also American presidency, Congress, interest groups. I believe there's a woman in politics course also that we offer. So those are some of the American ones that I can think of.
International relations, there is, well, I was trying to decide if the United Nations, I guess, the UN class, which Artuaste teaches, where you actually learn about the UN and then participate in a model UN simulation with some other campuses regionally, which students really have a good time with. Something happened? Oh, there it is. So they usually do that in the spring, if I'm correct, and they had a little trouble during the COVID years, but I think we'll be back to doing that in person where you get to stay overnight somewhere. And hopefully I'm getting this right. So the group of students from East Bay, they will get 1 or 2 countries to represent, and you do write-ups and you do research and figure out what your stance is on a particular international issue that everyone at the conference will be focusing on, and then you come together and you represent that country and you go through an actual negotiation with the other nations. And I think our East Bay group has won awards in the past too. Is that what that says?
Yeah. So won 2 awards at the Far West held in San Francisco, and then this is Dr. Archuleta, who's the one who teaches it. So much fun to see the spark in students' eyes when they see everything fits from the classroom to the conference. The theories we study, the papers they submit in, the practice of international relations and diplomacy in the conference. So it's like I've never been, and Dr. Bailey probably know more about this than I do, but it's a competition, and I am a very competitive person. So like it's just awesome, and I think we've won not just this year, but like several years in a row. That's about all I know is we win.
Well, I'm not sure. You don't like win, but you get awards for the work. Like, oh, this country did a great job. Not like you won the simulation. Oh. I don't think. You won. You're right, exactly. I won.
Saying, like in my class, there's a group of students who wins, and like we all applaud them, and then we all have cake afterwards. So
take Dr. Lee's classes. Other international relations classes would be international security, I think international political economy. There's one called global, I always get this mixed up. It's either world problems and global solutions or global problems and world solutions, either way, where it's kind of a topics-based class. So whoever teaches it can pick a world problem. Maybe that's migration, maybe that's sustainable development, maybe that's climate change, maybe that's some economic crisis, and then you study how the international community does or does not work together to solve it. Trying to think what other ones are. I teach an environmental policy course, but I teach it with an international bent to it. So we look at how countries do or do not cooperate to preserve the environment. And then the comparative politics one are the ones where you just look at the different regions, right? So Latin America, Europe, Africa, Asia. I think we have a specific Southeast Asia, and maybe, I don't know if we've taught in a while, but Middle East and North Africa, I believe, as well.
Oh. Oh, yeah.
Since the team on the Zoom didn't hear your spiel. Can you talk?
Oh yeah, sure. The pre-law program. Okay. Okay, I'll make the short version. Yeah. Oh yeah. So the pre-law option. Just wanted to mention that this is something that students you can put on your transcript, put on your resume. It looks really good for law schools. And since there was the question about what courses we teach, all of the pre-law courses are upper division. So American constitutional law, government, looking at issues of separation of powers, the role of the president, federal government versus state governments, constitutional law rights, focused on civil rights and civil liberties. Survey of American law will focus on kind of private law topics like contracts, property, personal injury type cases. Law in society looks at the interactions between, inequities in the law, race in the law, issues like that, international law and environmental law as well. We have law school admissions workshops on the LSAT, personal statements, resumes, letters of recommendation. These are kind of sessions and panels that we hold, more openly for all students, in the political science department. And then students, make a lot of appointments with me, either in office hours or after class, or schedule an appointment whenever they can to discuss things like the personal statements, resumes, providing feedback on that, working on that together. So we have a very strong pre-law program, a lot of demand. Over half of our students are pre-law students, so there is a lot of demand there, and I'm happy to help because I feel like I'm going through this process, the ups and the downs, and there are a lot of it. At least I can try to help students out, based on my experiences going through all of that. So we'd be happy to have you in any capacity in the pre-law program or in other fields.
Can you say again, like how you, like what you said earlier? I've been to law school and I teach the classes like you're in law school.
Yeah, so that's a great question and great point. So one thing we really focus on is the IRAC method. So you may have heard of this in passing. It's basically taking any case, no matter how complicated or how easy, and breaking it down into a few important elements. Not Iraq like the country, but Iraq, IRAC. The issue, the legal issue, like what is the question that the Supreme Court is deciding? What is the rule of law, the legal precedent that the Supreme Court establishes that then gets used in other cases? Then the analysis applying the rule of law to the facts of the case, kind of the legal reasoning, how the court came up with its decision. And the conclusion, ultimately, what the Supreme Court decided. So basically, the IRAC method is going to be, ingrained in your head, hopefully starting with my classes, and then in law school, hopefully it'll be second nature. And then the Socratic method, right? All the way back from the political theorist Socrates, basically where it was like, we want to not just have the professor lecture at us, but we want to learn from the students. So I can ask a student, what happened in this case, and you tell me what happened in that case, which in the beginning can be very intimidating, and in law school is very intimidating. But we do the nice version of the Socratic method at Cal State East Bay, where if you can't answer the question, we'll work through it, or we'll move on. We won't do what happened with me in law school, which is you get humiliated in front of the whole class. But no, it's actually something, I know, I'm still traumatized by it, but years. But no, these things actually are to, kind of like, they always say law school is not teaching you necessarily law, it's teaching you how to think like a lawyer. And so these are using the IRAC method, Socratic method. In our classes, it's like it's never too early to start learning those legal skills that will, put you one step ahead when you even get to law school in the first place. So.
And theory courses.
So political theory is sort of rotating around a few classes that currently exist. Among them, contemporary political thought, American political thought, like ancient Roman medieval thought, and also a area of political thought that has greatly influenced sort of modernity, Marxism as well, which one thing you'll come to learn doesn't just reach politics, but also reaches many other disciplines in the humanity as a method of analysis, in fact. So that's a an interesting class as well. And one thing is you'll notice that these classes are structured fairly broadly. So you might be asking yourself, well, what do you mean contemporary political thought? Well, that is in fact, this could cover a great many different ideas, and those classes will tend to sort of invite thought on a whole range of issues, and sometimes sort of narrowly focus on some. So I would always encourage reaching out to ask about the kinds of readings that might be done in those classes, the types of things that will be engaged in, because those could shift and change periodically as they sort of adapt to meet the challenges of the current times. Yeah.
Awesome. Great questions. I'm going to pause just in case anyone on Zoom wants to ask a question. So please take yourself off mute and ask a question if you have one.
What about opportunities that exist outside of the classroom?
Yeah, so I'm like, you guys, I had prepared a slide deck this morning on this. Everyone just calm down. All right. So it doesn't sound like there's any on Zoom. So Dr. Balo already talked about the model of UN. So the other thing outside of the classroom, we have a poli-sci club, which Dr. Balo is the poli-sci advisor for. Would you like to talk more on that?
I would love to. So we reiterate, we do have a club on campus, which is made up of student officers, probably similar to clubs you have here on your campus. And so it's student run and student led, and students get to decide what activities they want to do, when they want to do them, kind of how they want to do them within university regulations, right? And then I'm the advisor, so I don't run everything. It's really the students make the decision. So every year we've done it, we end up doing things slightly differently. But I'm trying to see what's up there. Okay. A few of the things we try to do every year. So we've had the last 2 years, we just have the club and the department put together a lunch, just a welcome back lunch. Welcome back if you've already been in East Bay. Welcome to East Bay if you haven't been here before, where you just get to meet faculty, staff, chit chat, get to learn more about the department. About halfway in the semester, we have a peer advising session. So you will have academic advisors that you go to, including your faculty, but we also want you to advise each other because you're the experts in what classes to take. So we'll have a session where one of us might come and just do an overview of some advising tips, and then you would advise each other on what to take. Like, oh, I heard Dr. Lee's class is meh, right? Don't take that. Or these two are really hard together. Don't take them together. Maybe take them separately, or definitely do this one before you do that one. That kinds of advice. So we would do that in both semesters. Different events that have happened, so you can invite people to campus, have guest speakers come, get to know them. During election years, we might have debate watch parties. We even had like election return parties, which would be part of like pizza and politics sessions. So you can just come and hang out and chat with kind of other people interested in politics. I think a couple of years ago, some of the officers would pick a topic and do a little research and then come together and talk about it. Basically current events. So what's happening now in this country, that country, this country, right? What's an event we want to chat about? Oh yeah, there you go. This was a couple of years ago when
It's still ongoing.
Yeah, when the war in Ukraine started. So they just, what do we need to know? So you can come and share if you know things, or you just want to learn things, you can come and learn information. It's just a way. Essentially, the club is meant to provide you with social outlet, right? People to get to know and to build a community within the department. So you feel comfortable there. You feel comfortable asking each other questions, finding friends to study with. I think the last couple of years they've done a study session, which was like Thursday at 3. And so people could just go to a room on campus, and I don't know how much studying happened. I wasn't there. Some, maybe not every day, I don't know, but just an opportunity to get to know each other. And then a bunch of the students did that and then came to my research methods class after. And it was awesome because they came chatting and like socializing. And this is post-COVID, so it was really nice to have them kind of making friends and things. Along with the club is the Honor Society. So Pi Sigma Alpha is a National Political Science Honor Society. So anyone from a political science department across the country can join it. you have to have a 3.0 in your major. I can't remember the certain number of units that you need to have, but so basically at least third or fourth year status. And now I can't remember the final criteria. But in the springtime, I send an email out to students that think they meet those criteria. They send them to me. I double check and make sure everything fits. They've made all the requirements. Usually it's a student doesn't have the GPA yet or hadn't taken enough classes yet. And then when you're accepted, then we have an initiation ceremony at the end of the year, along with a graduation party. And then you get to become a member of this organization, the Honor Society for life. You do have to pay a fee to join, but it's once and forever. You actually get discounts on some LSAT prep books or something like that if you're part of that. There are student conferences you can present your own research at. There's a student journal. You can try to publish your own research in that journal.
Service credit.
Yeah, and so the other one that students often like is that if you get a government jobs are really segmented, and you start it in your first year, you get this amount of money, your next year you get this amount of money, and so on and so on. If you're in the Honor Society, you start on the second level. So you're basically jumping over, and that's actually money in your pocket. I haven't had too many students come back and tell me they've done it, but I had one student do it. She's like, it was amazing. I just basically got a raise before I even started my job. That was pretty cool. So the club kind of does both of those. We have the same officers for the Honor Society and the club. They can invite people to campus. They can do activities. They can host info sessions. Whatever you all want to do is whatever the club wants to do. If the club doesn't do a lot, the club doesn't do a lot, right? So it kind of depends on how active students are and how interested they are. But I love working with them. The other benefit is you get to know us a little bit better, right? You work with us, which is great when you need a letter of recommendation later.
That's a benefit, though.
For some of us more than others, right? If you need a letter of recommendation later for law school, grad school, employment, it'd be great to know us a little bit better, and we know you, and we can write you a better letter. But really, it's just to build community in the department and make you want to come to campus and want to come to class and learn things.
And I would add on top of that, you shouldn't feel the need to join a club, though, to reach out to any of us. Absolutely, at least for me, it's a great pleasure always to take the time to meet with students and see them during office hours or around campus. And I know that sometimes it can be a little intimidating to reach out to your instructors and your faculty, but I guarantee you, I've never met any faculty member that wouldn't be interested to chat with a student about anything that that's pressing on their mind about their education and about things going on campus, or questions that they have about their future careers and so on and so forth. So I would always encourage you to always reach out and take advantage of office hours and things like that.
Awesome. I do have to get going because I have to teach, but I'll have Dr. Balo talk about some of the student support that we have. So we offer scholarships. You can talk to the scholarship Panetta. I'm also the internship coordinator for the department. So we also have some programs that students can apply to, and we'll help you apply for that. But the one thing I did want to highlight is that we are a community here. And we do we love our students, so we have parties for them. This is a graduation party. Dr. Balo already talked about the welcome back lunch. We have connections with political offices also, so we'll have Congressman Swalwell come in, hang out with the students, and his staff will also come in and hang out with us and talk to us. Taking them up to the Sacramento seminar. We bus students up to Sacramento, basically, just so you can get a feel of what that's like to be in the Capitol and to hear from our legislators and everything also. I see people packing up, so I'm not the only one that has to go to class, apparently. We also have, what's that? Okay. I'm like, I have class too. We also have, the presidential debates. We hold a viewing session, and then a few years ago we made bingo cards, which is super fun, and it's super engaging, and that's held by the Poli-Sci Club. And then this is a model of UN. So again, we love our students. We're here for you. The more in-person events that we can have, we love it. There's some funds within the department that allows us to give this to you guys. And one of the things that I am adamant about is that any kind of social event we have. We feed students. I am all about feeding students. I'm all about feeding myself. So on that note, I'm going to turn it. No, what feeding? Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, my God. No, not at all. See, this isn't a social event. Like, if I had something like this, I would not. But, like, if we're hanging out and, like, chit-chatting and everything, like, oh, no. Like, no, this is not a dig at all. Listen, I know, like, our budget got because I was feeding people too much. So, no, that was not a dig. I apologize. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Balo. So maybe you can talk about the scholarships and some of the other things that we do.
Yay!
And I will see you all on our campus, maybe next semester. I think we're talking about doing that.
Oh, that's right.
I did. Look at that. All right. Thank you, everybody. It's very nice meeting you. Thank you.
Okay, here's what I'm talking about. Okay, I can talk about, we do have 3 scholarships within the department that you would apply for in spring semester, kind of towards graduation. I think for 2 of them, you need to be returning, so you're not graduating, right? So that you would use the money towards tuition and books and things the next year. And one of them can be if you're graduating. And you can take that to do whatever you want with it, right? Make a car payment, buy yourself a cake, whatever you want. The others have to go back to tuition and books and school-related things. But they're not too onerous to apply for them. All you need to do is write a short essay. You have to write a short essay for all of them. The university asks you to do that. And then a short essay specific to academic excellence, overcoming obstacles, or community. So I think we've changed the name a little since then, but those are generally the 3 categories. So the university has scholarships, and then our department has a few scholarships as well that anyone, and they're, just to highlight, they're not solely based on your GPA. Right, we do that on purpose, that, yeah, it's something to consider, but we like to look at, maybe you had a lower GPA and you built it up. Maybe you overcome some adversity even getting to college, and you write about that, right? We're looking holistically at you, so we ask for GPA, but that's just one of many things that we consider. Your essay is actually probably more important than your grades.
What about the DC semester, the second one? This looks really cool.
Yeah. So Dr. Lee does most of those. I think those are through CSUs, so they're not just us. I think you do them with other students and go to DC. So part of this Panetta, and was it the Panetta you're talking about? Yeah. So that one is something that all the CSUs, and I think maybe half a dozen or less private institutions participate in this, and it's actually quite prestigious. Anyone can apply across the university, so it doesn't matter what major you are. And the university picks one student to go. There is an interview process, but we send you and we pay for you to go. So you don't have to pay for lodging or anything like that. You get a whole semester in Washington, D.C. with all the other students from the other universities. So you're like a cohort, and you go and you get placed with usually a member of Congress. Sometimes it might be someone in a different government agency. It depends on your interest and their availability. And you basically intern all semester. You come back, you have to do a final paper at the end, and then you come back and get maybe 3 poli-sci classes out of that. So, for example, if you're the traditional concentration, these classes and you're gone for a semester, they would all count towards your major. You wouldn't fall behind in any way. So it'd be like 3 of the classes that semester, and you don't. So there is an opportunity cost that you cannot work while you're in the internship, but you don't have to pay to be in the internship. So we realize there are some restrictions on that, and that would be fantastic in terms of getting a job later. The Sacramento seminar that Dr. Lee mentioned is shorter. It's a few days. You go up and you get to stay in Sacramento and, again, meet students from other universities and just talk to different people in different aspects of government. So not just people that are legislators, but other people in government, and I think including like nonprofits and other advocates, just so you can learn about all the potential jobs that there are and things that you can do. And then Coro Fellowship, we've had a few students from East Bay do that. Usually you do that when you've graduated, so you would apply towards the end, and then similar to the Sacramento seminar in the sense that you're placed with different agencies and organizations to work for them, kind of intern for them, so that at the end you get a really good sense, do I want to work private, public, what sector of government do I want to work in? So it really gives you a lot of experience when you can decide what. Yeah. Yeah, it's very comprehensive, right? So it's really, here are all the things that you could do.
And I've known a few Coro fellows, and the way they've explained it to me is like most internships, when you get placed in a position, you're sort of like low on the totem pole kind of placement, right? And an internship. What's kind of unique and interesting about Coro is they do pretty high level insertions. Like you're kind of placed pretty high up there, and you get to some pretty heavy access to some serious stuff. It's fascinating. You rotate from, as it was mentioned, right, to different sort of disciplines or different areas. And I have to say, the handful of people I've known that have done it, it has been a very significant springboard to places. So if you can get into that fellowship, it's good.
Yeah, we have, Dr. Lee and I have a student that we had maybe 2 years ago, and she applied after graduation and then ended up going to she was willing to go anywhere. So she went to Philadelphia and she was interning there, and she got a job and she stayed. So it gave her a job, basically.
Also, I don't know if they still do it, but the folks that I had talked to said when you finish that program, they often give you access to a master's program, a choice between some potential master's programs if you wish to continue your education.
And I'll say all of these opportunities are things that we're willing to help you. We have experience in them and we want to help you, but you need to kind of express the interest and work with us in it. A lot of times students might just be a little uncertain. Oh, I'm not qualified. I can't get it. No. Just try it. Just try it. Say, I'm interested in this. I don't know if I'm going to get it, but I'm going to try it anyway. The one student I mentioned that got the Coro Fellowship, she applied there before and did not get it. And she applied again and she got it. Right? And she was devastated, and we're like, no, it doesn't matter. And this will probably build you up and make you better when next time you apply for something. And we were right. Right? She got it the next time. So don't worry about, I'm not qualified. I can't do it. They're not going to pick me. We always have East Bay students that get selected for these. And we will do whatever is in our power and within the legal system, right, to help you get those positions. We want you to excel. We want you to do well. We want you to have all these experiences that you chose college as this option, and we want to help you get all the benefits of being in college, right? You have all these connections with the professors and people on campus. Use them. Just express, I'm interested in this. What do you think? All right, let's sit down. Let's talk about it.
I think that a lot of times the students that I run into that, they graduated from East, or I run into students that say, well, I'm not really sure, should I continue on with this college path? I have a cousin or a girl I know from my neighborhood who finished East Bay and now they're still working in a retail place. And I think that those students that have taken advantage of these opportunities, say I became a club officer and I did Coro, or I went to the Sacramento program, or I did an internship with Congressman Swalwell, you're going to be way less likely to find a lot of it's based on you having both the initiative but also the confidence to know that you can do these things, right? And then to start applying for those jobs that are kind of commensurate, the jobs that actually deserve you.
Right. And I'd say how you take the initiative and we'll help you with the confidence, right? Like just show a little bit of interest, and we will be your cheerleaders and help you do whatever you can to get to where you want to be, even if it's not right away, right? You may have to apply more than once, but we're willing to put in that effort for you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
For the scholarships that you mentioned, like the obstacles and the academic excellence, are those ones that we work on and apply for like once we get in, or?
Yeah, so the 3 departmental scholarships are in spring semester. So if you were to transfer to us next fall, then you could apply in spring. Even if you got there in spring, I suppose you could apply in spring as well. 2 of them, you have to be coming back the next year, so we don't want you to have graduated. The other, you can do your final year when you graduate, and that's fine. So yeah, you need to matriculate, you need to be one of our students, and then we will consider you for the award.
And I was going to add, kind of building on the previous question here. One thing that I think is that you have to everyone has to remember, right, is that your education is in your hands, right? And a lot of it is going to take initiative, right, on your part. Your education is what you make it. And that's one big difference between entering the university as opposed to maybe your secondary school education, right, where you're just like, I'm meeting these basic requirements in order to get out and, so on and so forth. Well, here, you're crafting your future. Right? You're making your education what you want of it. And consequently, you're going to be able to make, to a degree that you're able to influence it, right? Like the kind of career, the kind of life that you want afterwards. If you sort of passively engage with that process, then you're going to, you may wind up as the person that you described earlier, right? But it's up to you to make of your education what you want it to be.
I'll just add an anecdote that when I graduated from UC the year after, I worked at the front desk in the department that I graduated from and taught swimming lessons. Like, that's what I did with the UC degree. And then I went to grad school and I did all these other cool things, but
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with working
yeah.
now for taking a break, but that kind of turns into the rest of your career. And I think the thing too I'll say is that you will, I basically, when I was an undergrad, I took advantage of every single program that they offered me. I studied abroad, I did DC semester, I did everything they offered me, and I never regret that. And I just think God, I wish I would have done DC semester, I wish I would have studied abroad, or I wish I would have, and it's kind of once you get into the work world, once you get into your career, it's kind of difficult to take time out to say I'd like to go do an experience where I find out all these different, components of working at a nonprofit. It's not going to happen at that stage, right? So take these opportunities. It's really a golden time in your life. So take advantage of as many things as you can, and take advantage of that ability to take the reins of your own education.
Yeah.
Because later, unfortunately, there may be some situations where you're kind of you're reined in to what it is, whatever entity or organization it is that you're working.
Yeah, and if I could just add 2 real quick things, about what was kind of mentioned, like with the scholarships, I know students get really busy with classes and, family commitments, work commitments, everything, but if you can just find the time to just apply to them, it's kind of I don't want to relate scholarships to the lottery because it's definitely not that much money, but as the lottery, but the saying, you got to be in it to win it. So we were on the scholarship committee with Dr. Belo and Dr. Lee, and literally there were scholarships that no student applied to. Not one. If one person had applied, they would have literally got the scholarship, which was several $100s. And so, yeah, literally 2 paragraphs, you would have gotten $500 or something, or $400, whatever. But you get the point. Not even one had applied, right? So that, little things like that can make a big difference. And then with internships, kind of there is, can be intimidating, especially with some of these prestigious internships. So there was a student in one of my pre-law classes, and she was applying to the UN Summer Study Program at the New School, which is one of the most prestigious scholarships. And she had an interview, and she's kind of very intimidated, how do I do this? Is the United Nations, program, and I was just try to answer it this way, try to do that. She did it and she got it, and so it's we're always happy to help students, and we get excited. That's something that Ira, we were able to help students do this and get into this. So it's it's one of those things where a lot of things are intimidating. Can I get this scholarship? Can I get this internship? And you can. The answer is you can, because we've had so many students who've gotten it, and you just have to have that confidence to actually apply, because a lot of students don't apply, and then just just throw your name out there and ask for help. You're not alone in any of this. So we're all here to help and support you, and we've had a lot of great results both in scholarships and in internships for students. So.
Did you have something? We could go on and on, but
So, are there any last minute questions that any of the students have? for our illustrious faculty here from Cal State East Bay Poli Sci. Is it okay if students were to email you if they have any follow-up questions?
Totally.
Okay, so I'll post their email addresses.
I just need to say something. We have the last interview with Sandra Vanoker of NBC News, who was the first one to set up the presidential debates back when Nixon and Kennedy were running. It's on YouTube. It's under Interesting People with Tom Lorenzo. And it's a two-part series. We were the last ones to get it. He goes through a whole history of how everything started.
Oh, interesting. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, great. And Professor Dr. Ukadiva, is there anything that you'd like to add? She is an international relations professor at East Bay. She's an international comparative politics and American government professor here at Chabot. Is there anything that you'd like to add, or?
Well, I had a question about the club, but I think you talked about it.
Okay. Okay, great. So some of you guys will surely be taking a class with Dr. Ukadiva soon. Okay.
And we'll be here for a couple of minutes too if you want to chat. Yeah.
Oh, I had a question about the theory portion of it. When you were talking about how you evaluate the ideas of thinkers, is there any like recommended like books or readings that you can do or that I can do like to see if that is sort of my interest, or because I know like sometimes part of like the theory is kind of applying the past to the present. Is there like any essential readings that you recommend?
That is a very big question, yes. Yeah, that is definitely a very big question. And I would say that in somewhat depends on, I would have to follow that up with a lot of questions on like what specifically your interests were to kind of direct you maybe towards some particular areas. But I've actually found a really good, just very, I mean, it's going to sound nuts, but it's the Oxford Very Short Introduction, you know, those very short introduction books. They have a really good job kind of surveying some of the questions, some of the ideas in the Very Short Introduction to Political Philosophy. I think that's a very good, very brief, but it kind of does a good treatment of like the kinds of questions, the kind of ideas that are engaged with.
Small book?
Yeah. I find them to be honestly fantastic. And so, I mean, if you're just looking for like, is there something I can kind of quickly stick in my pocket and knock out in a weekend and get a sense of what this political theory, political philosophy is all about, I'd say that is a good. Now, if you are asking a sort of deeper cut question as to like, what are the sort of canon of political philosophy that has shaped the world and should I look into? That's a bit of a different question. And, you know, as you can see here, the pre-law section is already introducing the Socratic method, right? Socrates. So a great starting place to understand that is looking at a work that's called collectively The Last Days of Socrates. But we have the Apology. We have the Euthyphro, the Credo. These are three classical texts that sort of talk about Socrates and his sort of engagement with his students, his engagement with political life, his trial and his ultimate death. I mean, this is a kind of classic place to start thinking about big questions, or where, at least in Western political thought, people started thinking about big questions like that. I guess, yeah, it's a very long answer, but that's just a short part of it.
Maybe you could also email?
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be great. Thank you. All right, anything else? Well, can we give our amazing panel a... Thank you so much to the students who are here, and some of you guys may be watching this now, recorded later on video. So any questions that you guys might have about the Cal State East Bay Political Science Department, I will post underneath it a link to the department, I guess to some folks' emails, and just be sure to click around the Chabot Political Science majors Canvas site, where there's tons of information about transfer, about the general education requirements, about internships, about careers, and about how to get in contact with me or any other faculty in the department. Thank you.
And come visit us next semester.